This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Joby Martin, welcome back to my house.
Here we are.
How's it feel?
Feels great, especially now.
Well, we'll get to the why it feels special now, but there happens to be an addition to the table.
Welcome.
There's an open bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 20-year-old bourbon, which just so happens to also be my favorite bourbon in the world.
Yeah.
Do you think, oh my gosh, look, we got glasses. Joby, there are Glencairn glasses on this table. Would you like to go ahead and partake?
I would love to.
I thought this was against the rules. I thought if you were a Christian, you weren't allowed to drink or dance or have fun.
It depends on whose rules you're listening to.
Well, what about God's? What does God say?
No, every good and perfect gift is from above.
Well, let's take a look. You can have the Oklahoma Bourbon Connoisseur shout-out glass or the Oklahoma State University glass.
I'm going to go with the Oklahoma State.
Cowboys, because you're wearing a cowboy hat.
Nope, because my friend Bob, who lives in Texas, is an Oklahoma State grad, and he invited me out to his place to hunt.
Shout out to Bob in Texas, and people are thinking, oh my gosh, those are enormous pours. Yeah, that's probably an ounce and a half, maybe 2 ounces. Leave that right there just so our editor, Landon, gets mad. Oh, you left it right in the middle of the table.
I know.
There you go. Sláinte.
To the king.
Appreciate you. So I think people are going to be wondering right from the beginning, why in the world is this episode called Skunks and Crosses? And so I don't think that we should leave people in any suspense. So just to set it up, I don't know when this is coming out. It's going to be coming out weeks after the fact, probably, maybe a couple months. So I do an annual whiskey tasting called the Blue Glass Whiskey Tasting Experience, or Blue Glass. Yeah, that's the name. Got the name of my own thing right. So we've done it 2 years in a row. So this year we're like, okay, Joby, you should come out, but like, let's do it around a hunt. And so we have a good friend, mutual friend, Heath. His family has some property that we can go hunt on. And it's like, okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we're driving out. So we do the tasting. Tasting goes great. The Dominion guys came out. So shout out to Dominion Team 1. All those guys came out to Oklahoma a couple days beforehand. We did some jiu-jitsu. We broke bread. We drank whiskey. We, smoked cigars, got some workouts in, flipped some tires. And so we're having a good time, do all that, take care of business on Saturday. Well, Sunday morning we leave out early and we start heading out there. And then I'll let you take it from there.
Well, there were two things that there's an overabundance of here in
Oklahoma. And it's not tornadoes. Those are like an occasional thing, right? Well, regardless of what you and G saw in the movie Twisters. Okay, that's not a documentary.
I thought it was a documentary.
No, it's not.
There are huge white crosses. Cool. And dead skunks.
Right. Well, okay. The white crosses are on the sides of the road, and it doesn't matter if it's a big city, like right off of I-35 and 2nd Street in Edmond, or if it's in a small town. People just need to let you know country music theology is strong here in the state of Oklahoma.
Huge. I mean, 6-story white crosses, which are great, man. Praise God. Love me a cross. And dead skunks. I don't mean some. I mean about... I mentally started counting maybe around the half dozen mark, and I'm like, hey, dude, have you noticed these dead skunks everywhere?
Well, now, up to this point, I hadn't noticed because, like, things are just dead on the side of the road. You don't really pay attention to it and all that. And the moment you said, dude, that was the 7th or 8th dead skunk that I've seen on the side of the road. And I'm like, surely not. Surely, Joby, it's just, there's some sort of joke or some sort of, like, spiritual application that I missed. And then I get tuned up to look for black animals with a white stripe down the back. And we probably saw 10 more.
Yeah, in fact, we called Heath, the guy that we were following, and we're like, hey, dude, what's up with the dead skunk? And passed 2 during the phone call.
These things were like 50 yards apart on the highway.
Yeah, it averaged out about one every 1 minute and 45 seconds.
So, did we ever figure out, is this like skunk mating season that we did this and they were just like going crazy, like their own version of
right?
No, they're not doing a very good job. But yeah, we got to do a hunt, and so the cool thing, I don't want to give away too much inside baseball because family business, family owned land and all that. But there's this piece of land that's been in this family for a very long time, long before either one of us knew anyone in this family. And just the way the cookie crumbled is this hunt, me, you, and Heath, was going to be the last hunt on this family's property, like ever. Like, and this has been part of, this guy's upbringing and all that. And the funny thing is, I was already planning to bring this bottle of Pappy 20, which was given to me by I'll just call him Mr. Staggs because I didn't get permission to use his full name on here. But there's a Mr. Staggs out there. Him and his wife are huge fans of the show and huge fans of everything Undaunted.Life does. And I told him what my favorite bourbon was, and he's like, oh, do you think you can get me some? And I've got contacts. I can get you the legit stuff, and you don't have to worry about it being like a counterfeit or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I don't just want, just give me 2. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, the guy wants 2. And he's like, yeah, 1 for me and 1 for you. And I had known this dude for about 7 minutes. And he's like, yeah, hey, I get that. I'm like, dude, these are, a couple grand a piece. I forget what they were. He's like, yeah, you just need my card or whatever. And so I've been holding on to this bottle, and it's been sitting in a different place in my kitchen because I'm just like, okay, I don't want to just pop this for any reason, just for any random slappy that's coming over or whatever that's not going to appreciate or ask for a Dr. Pepper to pour it in. And so I was already planning on bringing this out there on the hunt. And then just one day I was talking to Heath on the phone about some stuff, and I was like, hey, how long has that property been in your family? Like, and he's like, 20 years, man. This is the 20th year. And I was just like, if you could have seen my grin when I was on the phone, because I thought about telling him right then, bro, I'm bringing a bottle of Pappy 20 for us to come out there and have, but I made it until we got all the way out there. And before we went out and hunted, I was like, okay, I need to give us an incentive. It's like, guys, I brought a celebratory whiskey, a celebratory bourbon, and then I pull it out and I have it in the red bag. And I forget I don't know if it was you or him said it. You're like, what? Yeah. Are you serious? And then so
I think we both did simultaneously because we know.
Yeah. So we got to toast we waited after the hunt. And so let's get into the So There I Was stories, because we had a pretty epic couple of days that we just got back from.
So every good story starts with, so there I was. And so there I was at Heath's place, and we are looking for aoudad, which are almost impossible to find.
Yep.
They only have 2 speeds, laying down, hiding, or running full speed, apparently.
And they typically just live in places where they blend in super well. And I mean, this country we're in was thick, lots of canyons, lots of hills, and I mean, really, really hard to find them.
So we're riding around, we're looking for them. We tried a little spot and spook, we're trying to, whatever. We're just trying to get eyes on them to begin with. And then I say, hey, why don't I sit up high, maybe in a stand or something, so I can glass and, see what we can see. And so y'all dropped me off at a pretty high tower stand, redneck blind, pretty well situated. I'm looking due south. You guys take off. I don't really know where you're going. Turns out the best way to get them up and moving is to get down and just kind of walk these canyons.
Yep.
Apparently you guys got up to 25, 30 yards. They spook.
Well, we pull up. We're driving around in a Jeep out there, and we pull up to this canyon. And so we pull up, and it's like, okay, let's get out. And so we walk the edge of the canyon. We come down into the canyon a little bit, and we start walking back. And we're just standing there looking again. It's thick with dead trees and grass and all that. And then we hear some branches break.
Yeah.
And so we walk a little bit further, and then Heath gets over there, and I mean, this whole group of them stand up and got spooked. And so he's like, messing with his rifle, trying to get a shot. And so like we realized we didn't end up getting any right there when we saw him. We just basically rushed him out of the canyon. We realized we drove right past them in a Jeep Wrangler, probably within 25 yards, and they just sat tight. Like they are very, very comfortable with their ability to, keep themselves in concealment.
And they'll do that. And so, I mean, honestly, I'm sitting in my stand. I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to see anything. I have the Georgia-Texas replay basketball game on in my stand because Georgia whipped them, which is awesome. And it starts raining pretty decent.
Yep.
I look over my back right shoulder. So if you've ever hunted out of a redneck, this is not where you want to shoot from. Like there's not a rest, there's no anything. And they're 7 or 8 aoudad piling over this hill, 270 yards, going full speed.
Full speed, full clip.
So shout out to, are we doing, this is like name drop?
Yeah, I think this is going to end up being the name drop. We've already shouted out Pappy, Van Winkle, Oklahoma
kind of
Bourbon
sponsors
Concerts. Yeah, OSU. Guys, send us money.
We need church sponsors. What do you think? This is sermon
church sponsors?
I'm kidding. No, we don't need that.
I think it's a great idea. Let's tease that out here in a second.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So, my man Vic Keller has just hooked me up with a Christensen and Arms custom built carbon rifle 300 Win Mag with my name on it. I just got it from Dallas 2 days ago. And shout out to my man Matt Chandler, because I couldn't get over to Vic's house because I was going to Lake Point Church to preach. So Matt Chandler's like, I'll run this. I'll go get this for you. So all of you listening, to Undaunted.Life, and you've heard Matt Chandler and heard his sermons, he's even a better dude, even a better friend. I'm sure he's busy, and he drops what he's doing to go get my gun.
Well, and even another shout out to another Matt. And so you're getting off an airplane, and there's a few hours before this tasting, and it's like, well, shoot, I got this new rifle. I'd love to take it on this hunt the next day, but it's like you can't really find a place. So shout out to Matt Conway of LMS Tech, which is underneath LMS CPA. All the shout outs. Guys, if y'all will actually tally up the shout outs we give to specific people, but Matt Conway, LMS Tech, he just loves this stuff. Like him and his son, both, he's got a great son, Brendan, and they love putting bows together. He loves, putting stuff together. And so you show up with a brand new rifle, but you've already got your scope and your rings and the suppressor and all
It's
that
like
stuff.
Jenga pieces. It's all separate. I hand it to him. I could look at his garage and know.
Yeah,
it's
there
gonna
were
be fun.
hints.
You know what I mean?
There were some hints.
So then he shows up with it. He's like, all right, it's bore-sighted, should be on paper at 50. Great.
Yeah.
I mean, think I've never shot this gun. I bring what my other 300 Win Mag likes, the bullets.
Give him a shout out.
Shout out to
Nosler.
Nosler,
Yeah,
that's
let's
right.
go.
Nosler. They're very expensive though, Nosler, but whatever. They shoot great. I sit down, first shot at 50.
This is where when we're sighting in before we go out.
Yeah, we haven't even hunted yet. Lay down, and your boy put bipods on it. Everything's perfect. Vortex. Shout out to Vortex for striking with scope. No, Razor scope.
That's right.
Lay down, boom. I'm an inch low, an inch left. That's impossible already. I mean, I don't know how your boy bore sighted it that close. I click the top turret and the left-right turret. Next shot, boom, I'm an inch high at 50. I get my dope chart out. That should be perfect for 200. I shoot it one more time. They're touching.
Yep.
They're touching. So I'm like, holy God. I mean, dude, two shots, and I'm sighted in. I took a third one just to see. All right.
And so now we're back in the blind. You got these aoudad piling over the hill over your right shoulder.
Look over my right shoulder. They are running at 270 yards full speed. There's a pile of them. So I throw the chairs out of the way, grab the gun, throw it out the window. I don't have a super stable rest, and they're running. It's not exactly ideal. My dad used to say there's this ancient Native American hunting proverb: shoot, maybe. No shoot, no maybe.
That's right.
So
let's go.
That's all I can think about. So this thing's running, and I was like, man, why not? I put it on the front of his chest. I'm shooting suppressed. And so I hear a thump. But, you know, when you shoot a 300 Win Mag, it's not like you can stay right on it and then see.
Right, and Heath and I heard the shot from the canyon.
Yep.
And he heard the thump as well.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, that sounded like a thump. And I'm watching them. I start texting y'all information. Y'all come up. We get out. We go to look for blood. It starts pouring rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like, well, we'll check this canyon tomorrow. It's also freezing cold too, so it's fine leaving them. But I felt, because Heath also heard the thump and I heard the thump and I had a pretty good sight picture on him, I felt, you know, better than 50-50 that's got to be a dead animal. And I didn't tell you guys this, but the way they acted afterwards, like they went down in this valley and they kept stopping and looking back, you know, almost like one of the comrades is gone. So anyway, so then it's pouring rain. We're like, let's go back. We get in this Jeep, holy moly. And
I kind of forgot about this. It's like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Dude,
and it's
the
like
red
pissing rain.
clay and water ain't a good mix.
Guys, if you've never driven on the red clay of Oklahoma when you don't have like super duper mud tires or something like that, it gets sketchy.
I thought we were gonna die. So there's this big land bridge and there's this pond. I mean, it's like
ponds on either side.
30-foot, 40-foot drop.
Yeah.
I don't know. Gosh, and we started sliding around. I was like, God. And then we get stuck on this hill, and it's a brand new Jeep, so he's trying to figure out how
Jeep's
four-wheel
got,
drive
like,
actually works.
It's like 20 days old.
And I thought we were gonna get sliding. That's what I thought. I didn't care if we got stuck on the hill. We could just sit there until it stopped raining. We could figure it out.
Yeah, and I had my truck. We could have got, and we had a tractor. We could have got it out.
No problem. And we could just sit in the truck. No problem. In the Jeep. But when we went up and slid back down, in my mind, I kept waiting for us to slide and then start rolling and then land upside down underwater in the pond.
Best case scenario.
And I'm trying to figure out what door it opened.
That's right. That's right.
And so we go back. We went out in the rain, have a snack or two. I would look at the radar. There's going to be a break. And then I say to Heath, dude, I got an idea. Oh, this break, it won't be long. Let's go get in the woods and get Kyle something.
Hey guys, real quick. Do you remember during the pandemic when you basically couldn't get anything shipped to your house? All this manufacturing that was supposed to be taking place in America had been shipped overseas and you just didn't notice it. And I remember a bunch of companies saying, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we bring manufacturing back to America, and almost none of them followed through on that promise. But for me and for all of us here at Undaunted.Life, I wanted to make sure that I partnered with an American company that actually did want to prioritize American workers, their families, their communities, and a company that would keep their word. And that's why I want to remind you that we are partnered with Origin. Origin is an apparel company based in Maine, and what do they make? They make the best jiu-jitsu gis on the planet and the only jiu-jitsu gis that are made completely in America. They also make jeans. Yes, they have stretchy jeans. They also have work jeans and bootcut jeans for you guys as well. They make amazing hunting gear. And here's the thing. I know you guys like some other hunting brands, but those companies are American companies that use overseas labor to increase their profit margins on their gear, not to help you or Americans out. They also offer handmade leather boots. That does include steel toe boots and mock toe boots, And they also make workout clothes and everyday pants and shirts and almost indestructible hoodies, and they're launching new apparel all the time. Guys, if you haven't already tried Origin stuff, you need to check them out and support a company that supports Americans. Try Origin out today by going to www.originusa.com. That's originusa.com. Use the promo code UNDAUNTED to get 10% off your order. Again, that's originusa.com. Promo code UNDAUNTED to get 10% off your order. Yeah, so we get back out there. So it's probably like 4 o'clock when it's like, okay, let's get back in the Can-Am at 4 o'clock. Let's start going back out there because we're going to get a break in the rain. And so on this property, they have oryx. And so and because of the climate and because of some of the things in that area, a lot of the oryx have broken horns. And so like antlers grow back, horns do not. And so when these horns get damaged or something like that, they just stay damaged, stay broken, whatever. And so like if you're running any type of a hunting operation and you've got something like that that's damaged, obviously guys want to go out there. They don't just want the meat. They want this, beautiful, perfect, trophy and all the type of stuff. And so the last time or 2 times ago when I was out there, I saw this oryx. And the moment I saw it, I thought, this is exactly what I thought. And then I'll back into it. Tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again. Okay, so that is an emo song that's turned into a meme that's been applied to about 70 different reels and TikTok videos.
Yeah.
This freaking oryx
I just thought the oryx was mad at his dad.
This oryx has been drying its tears with its bangs. And so the thing is there's one horn that is perfect and normal, and this other horn that is straight down over its eye, right? And so it literally looks like it's got emo bangs on one side. And so I decided to call him My Chemical Orex, and so that's the name of this particular oryx. And so, and here's the thing, also to back up, it had been weeks and weeks and weeks of prep to get to this weekend. With the Dominion guys coming into town and me wanting to really deliver for them. And, this was me meeting a lot of them for the first time in person. So, guys, we launched this program, this Dominion coaching program. The waiting list is open right now, Undaunted.Life/Dominion. These are guys that it's like, okay, you've listened to the show for years. You've read the devotionals. And it's like, now you want to know, okay, I want to quit back darkness. All right, I want to be equipped to push back darkness in my house, in my congregation, in my city. And I also want to do it with a group of like-minded dudes that are spread out all over the country. And so these dudes are coming in from Alaska, Florida, a couple of Church 1122ers, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, Arizona, and they're all converging on Oklahoma. One guy came up from Texas. And so you want to deliver for that. You want to deliver for the tasting. And then we get past the tasting. Goes well. Great night. Shout out to Dwayne Poor of Stag Lounge and Omerta Cigar Lounge. He's the one that hosted and did the tasting. 2 more shout outs. And so
shout out to me because I won the biggest raffle.
Okay. All right. We're going to go all the way back. So at this tasting.
By the way, this would be my favorite podcast. If I was listening to this.
Oh, my gosh.
Like when Joe Rogan and Cam Haim just tell like hunting stories the whole time.
Oh, and we're so far out. I just got to remember where I'm at in the hunting story. But I think I can do it. I think I can, untangle this Charlotte's Web here. And so I get a bunch. I get a bunch of people that gave me silent auction items. And so a lot of my good buddies, they bought some really cool items for the silent auction for the whiskey tasting. And then shout out to Origin, Jocko Fuel, Primal Beef, Mountain Tough, Half Face Blades, High Altitude Edge Works, Mike Ritlin, Team Dog, Crossway. Like all these people sent me these amazing things. But then shout out. What's that?
Elite.
Yeah, and Elite. I got a buddy that got no, it wasn't Elite. Yeah, my buddy got one of those. The knock on was, I forget the name of the company. It's like a LSG or something like that. Whatever archery company that is. PSG. What is it?
PSE.
PSE. There it is. All right, so y'all can tell how much I've hunted out there with a bow. And so we got all this great stuff. But then shout out to Clint Walker, because Clint Walker of Eufaula, Oklahoma. Don't look him up. It's creepy. But great dude. Dude started doing jiu-jitsu in his 50s. And like, dude's just awesome, fired up. You can't ever say he used to be a Marine. He is a retired Marine. Well, he shows up at my house about a month ago, and he's like, I got something for your whiskey tasting that you can give away. Bro shows up with the 357 Magnum.
Let's go.
And I'm like, brother, are you serious? He's like, yeah, man, this is going to be the absolute best. And so I go, you know what? That's going to be the raffle item. So we got silent auction, and then we got raffle. So it's like, hey, if you every $25 you donate, get your name put in the raffle, winner's going to get this, right? So we get to the end of the night. And we got an additional last minute item, which was we did this, at a golf resort. And it was like a round of golf for 4 guys at this really nice course with, $100 to the pro shop, a couple of hats. So that's the first raffle item. So I take all the people's names. And so some people have donated $25, so they're in there once. Some people donated $300, so they're in there, what would that be, 12 times?
Yep.
So get all the names in there. I go to wheelofnames.com. Shout out to wheelofnames.com. And I put them into Wheel of Names. And then it's got this big tick, 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 tick with all these names. It's like hundreds of names at this point. And I just hit boom, go. Then there's a guy named Clay, and I want to get the name of it right. It's like it's called like Cigar Church or something like that. He started. It's like a YouTube channel where it's like guys just smoking cigars doing church. Dude's a pastor who's sitting at my table because he is a guest of Dwayne Poore, who hosted the tasting. Boom, he wins. Ain't that something? Ain't that nice? But now
he wins the golf.
He won the golf. But now the evening's almost over. We got to do this last raffle, the 6th Whiskey Ardbeg Spectacular, which, to back up even one more step, shout out to Ryan Horn, because whenever I had just said goodbye to Roman the Giant, I zip up the bag, and I see a Glencairn glass come into my peripheral vision that's empty, and then I see a bottle of Ardbeg Spectacular, and he's like, let's toast to your best friend. And so Rush Sweatman, shout out, Ryan Horn, we pour some Ardbeg Spectacular, shout out to Ardbeg, and they pour it in our glasses. We take some, and we put some in Roman's grave. We put them in there, and then we bury them and all that. So we had already served Ardbeg Spectacular. That was the last whiskey tasting. We are here. It is time to hit the button for Wheel of Names to see who's going to win the 357 Magnum, but we already began with the end in mind. Shout out to, what was it, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of a Highly Effective Leader. I hit the thing. It's tick, 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 tick. Joby stinking Martin is the name that comes up.
Winner, chicken dinner.
And the room explodes. I turn beet red with embarrassment somehow, because you stand up and you just own the moment. You're in your vest and your cowboy hat, and you're just like, I am here. I am all that is man. Who wants to touch me? And so that was kind of like the final thing of the night. So you win the 357 Magnum. You're having a great weekend. We hang out afterwards. Everybody had cigars on the porch. Great night. And then so here we are.
So now we're back on the plains with You're Mad at Your Dad Oryx in front of you at 212 yards.
So he's over there with his headphones on. He's thinking about cutting himself because he's so depressed. And he's with all of his buddies, though, which is good, because if you're ever depressed, you should be with people that are like-minded. And so he's here hanging out with his Oryx family. And remember, I said I was brain dead, right? So I'm bringing it all back. I was brain dead because I was tired. I hadn't gotten a lot of sleep. I had worked out a bunch with the Dominion Team 1 guys, and here I am. And so on this, terrain, there's basically not a prone shot, right? The grass is so high, there's too many hills, too many canyons. And so you got to have a tripod or shooting sticks, or you're shooting off the Can-Am or the hood of the truck, something. You got to be ready for that. So we spot these Oryx, right? And they're 250 yards away or something like that. So we get up behind this dead tree, and I go grabbing in my bag. I got my rifle. I set it down on its bipod so that I could go get the shooting sticks. And very calmly, Joby looks over from his binoculars, and he says, hey, Kyle, I think prone would be better. And then I notice it's a straight shot. Yeah. There's not grass that's going to be in my way. There's not a dead tree. There's not a bush or anything like that. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And so I set my tripod down, and then I just lay prone. And the thing is if you're not an experienced hunter, which, as Adam said on the forging table a few weeks back, he feels like, and he would know a thing or two, that I'm probably a blue belt at hunting, right? I've passed on some things that a lot of people wouldn't have passed on. I have some instincts, but I also, as a blue belt, a good blue belt should, I know when to shut my mouth and ask questions. Or I guess you would need to open your mouth to ask questions, but I know when to shut.
No, but you do that thing in your How to Be a Man every January, Like,
don't act like you know something you don't know.
Yeah, or don't miss the opportunity to be the idiot.
Right. And so this, so my Chemical Orex is, he's looking at me, right? And you can shoot that animal like that and get him to go down and all that. You might destroy some meat and all that. And I go,
but you ask?
Yeah, but I turn over and I say, he's looking at me, and both you and Heath go, just let it ride.
Well, he's not hurried.
Right.
He's eating again. He's surrounded by his herd, so like he's not running off.
No,
you're gonna have plenty of time, and even if you were to get away, if the shot wasn't perfect, we could restalk. It was the first evening of the first day. If we needed it, we had another whole day, and maybe even the short part of the next morning. So, all that in mind, you just wait for the perfect shot, which you did.
So in that moment, I got my bipod. I've got a good sight picture. I've zoomed in just a little bit on the scope, and I've widened my legs, my stance. I've gotten right behind the butt of the rifle, so it's going to be basically kicking right through my body. I've got my feet flat and got all that out. And so shout out to Badlands Sniper School down in Southwest Oklahoma, who
cool.
taught me all that stuff. A bunch of Vietnam snipers out there that taught me all that years and years ago. And so I've got my scope ahead of where he's walking, so that if he goes broadside or quartered away, that I'm ready to go. And at this point, the only thing left to do is just remain calm, focus on your breath, keep your heart rate low. I had, shout out to Garmin. They've got a great watch, and it's got a heart rate monitor on here. If y'all are thinking I'm going to stop with this shout out thing, no, I'm just warming up, getting started. And so my heart rate, is under control. And then at some point, he kind of quarters to a little bit. And so I ask again, I kind of look, I'm like, and I don't ask, I just go, he's quartered to, and you go, you're good. Just wait. You're good. You're good.
And my job, if you're spotting, if you're guiding, if you're the other guy, whether it's with a newer hunter or a kid or whatever, what you're trying to do is provide calm, not elevate excitement. Because you've also got a story of an elk hunt one time, and things can get elevated. Like, go, now. It's the worst thing you could do to shoot. Everything needs to go calm. It would be like yelling at somebody at the free throw line. Like, do you know how much this matters right now? You don't want to do that. You want to be like, nah, dude, you got it.
And you think you're doing okay because in your excited tone, you're like, just remember everything I taught you. Just go through the basics. Stay calm. Stay freaking calm.
Whatever you don't screw up.
Yeah, that's basically.
But dude, and you were chilling, and you would look. It was great. I knew it was going to be fine. And then all of a sudden.
Yeah, he goes broadside, and I shoot right behind the shoulder. He jumps and kicks, and then if I'm lying, I'm dying. This thing stands there, and then it kind of walks in a circle once or twice, and then it lays down exactly how you would pose a dead animal to take a picture with it, for your glory shot or something like that, or whatever those things are,
The way you do it is with a bighorn animal like that, you bend you put the right ear on its right shoulder and put the nose in the ground with the horns going straight back, and it did just like that and lay down and died
with its emo bangs right in front to where you could see it. And again, but the process isn't done. So again, as a hunter, even when you get excited, you get the shot, you see it. I'm looking through the scope, I'm running the bolt, and then I see the entry wound, and I see blood coming out. I don't see it running off. I'm like, this is good. But then again, even in that moment, I just turn to my right and I go, do I need to put another shot in? And both of y'all just go, no, just wait. And then like clockwork, within 5 feet of where I shot him, he lays down and, he expires very quickly. So that always makes you feel good as a hunter or a marksman or an archer or something like that, when you get an animal on the ground quickly and you can see it expire very, very quickly without a whole lot of suffering. And so that was so there I was story. And so I get, we get over there, we wait for the rest of the orcs to kind of clear off. We go over there, we take some pictures and all that. And then we think, all right, between the three of us, we're in shape. We lift weights. Some of us even do cardio. We don't need to talk about who wouldn't do that. I mean, even on this trip, Joby was lifting weights on my Sorinex outfitter rack, which is in my garage. And so here he is, shout out to Sorinex, getting after it. And he drank a Jocko Go from Jocko Fuel before then to get a little kick going into the workout. And so we're already pumped up for the weekend. And we get over there and we're thinking, I'll just back up the Can-Am. You grab a leg. We'll just get it on up there. And guys, if I'm lying, I'm dying. It was like half Thor Bjornsson when he tried to pull 501 kilograms here recently at the Arnold Classic. Shout out to the Arnold Classic. We don't budge this Oryx off the ground.
Nope.
3 grown men, we can't get this dude's rump off the ground. And so,
there's nothing to grab onto either. It's not like there's handles at the low part.
And he's wet because he's been out in the rain all day. All the grass is wet and all that. And so we're there. We end up, we just got to gut it. And so I got a little gutting lesson and things like that because I was very used to, doing a field dress and quartering and all that kind of stuff on, a doe or a buck or things like that. And those are animals that you can manipulate. You can just lift them over and go this way, lift them over and go that way. So I got a little bit of a learning curve there, kind of getting all the guts out. It took forever. I was like getting embarrassed. I'm tired and all that. It's like, okay, just stop it. You're fine. You can do this. And so we get it all out. We get it lifted up in the Can-Am when we get back to the shop. And then it's like, okay, the three of us could sit here and we could skin this thing and, get on to dinner and all that. But then you and Heath are like, well, hey Kyle, if we just leave you here, like, are you good with all this? And I'm like, yeah, go. And so pick it up from there.
Yeah, so we go back out, and I go back into that same stand.
Can we just talk about how concerned I am about you? How did you forget you got Pappy 20 sitting there?
No, man, I'm
You're savoring it.
Yeah,
You're saying, okay, all right. Go ahead.
I promise I'm not going to pour it out. So I go back into the same stand. Kyle goes to, Heath goes to just kind of sit. Come to find out, he just gets cold where he is. So I think he called his wife on the phone. Then he was just gonna walk around in the canyons. Well, he ends up jumping a group of them, getting 3 shots at a mature aoudad and dropping it, although it ran down in the canyon.
And right before that, he makes a strategic change. Because again, guys, if you've ever hunted for aoudad, the odds of you seeing one are so infinitesimally small, even if you're shooting on private property or all that. So he had brought out a 22 nozzler. And so guys, if you're hunting, and you've got even a kid and you're suppressed 22 nozzler, like, you can take out a good sized deer. And I mean, it's such a great round. But instead of taking out the nozzler, he takes out my Tika 308, which has been a tack driver for me. And so he's got Remington green tip in there, about 180 grain. Shout out to Remington. And so they make great ammunition. And so he takes that out. And if he had been out there in that same spot with that 22 nozzler, like, I don't know.
No, a big goat would tote it. It would be, it'd probably eventually die. But so he gets it down. He actually gets hands on it. But again, it's cold, it's raining.
Sun's gone.
We're like, let's go. We'll come and look for R2 tomorrow, Get into Can-Am. We get to you. You were almost done with the Oryx at that point. You had all of the hide off.
Which, by the way, guys, if you're going to be taking off the hide of something like an Oryx or a Nilgai or an Eland or something like that, it is not a whitetail. I mean, the skin, the thickness of the fat layer on like the part on the front and on the spine. I mean, we're talking about an inch worth. And so, like, I doled a couple of knives.
Well, it's in the antelope family, so it's very different than like the deer family, whether it's a red deer or an elk or a stag. So it's way fattier. It's hard.
I gotta find the name of that restaurant we had dinner at so we can shout them out.
Okay,
in Woodward, Oklahoma. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. I can't remember what it's called. So anyway, you had done a great job. You had it all the way caped. You had the front quarters off. We knocked out the back straps and the inner loins, and then got the hams off and coolered up, and went to bed. Got up early. We sat in some stands in the morning just to, see if we got lucky. And then once it got to about 8:30, 9 o'clock, we just started kind of scouting around in the place where we knew Heath was and where we thought mine was. And sure enough, mine was dead right where we thought he would be, and Heath was right there. And so we cleaned him up, threw him into Can-Am, and now here we are.
Well,
then we went to dinner. What's it called? Long Shots?
Long Shots Grill,
dude,
in Woodward, Oklahoma.
So good. The wings.
Right. So it took me a while. It took me a while to get done with the skinning and all that. And so here we are driving into Woodward, Oklahoma, not exactly a bustling metropolis, but for the armpit of Oklahoma, it's basically New York City. And so
awesome.
Sunday night, what's going to be open? We're all
Long
thinking
Shots.
Arby's, right? So we're going to go to Arby's. We're getting half-pound roast beef sandwiches and curly fries. Shout out to Arby's. And then you're looking to the left as we're driving through downtown, and you see like a sign on.
I saw a cowboy boot neon sign and a bunch of Chevys.
Right. And so we go over, we investigate, and we see Long Shots Grill is open. And so we go in there and have some chicken wings. And I have a rule, guys, chicken fried steak. If it's on the menu, I have to get it. It was fantastic. So we get back, we toast the Pappy 20 that night.
Yep.
But as of that night, we knew we had an Oryx because it's in my cooler.
Yeah.
We knew that he had gotten hands on his aoudad. But as of that moment, we don't know anything else. We're thinking we're going to go out tomorrow.
Right.
We got to hunt an aoudad. Maybe we're going to be hunting Oryx. Like, we're not really sure what's going on. And so then we get to the next day, and it was so funny because we sit in those stands and all that. And I want to slow down that story just a little bit that you just told, because we all split up.
Yep.
And so we're splitting up and we're kind of pulling double duty. We're trying to find Heath's aoudad, or we know where Heath's aoudad is. But then we're also like, well, if Joby hit that aoudad that was running at 270 or whatever, then, we kind of need to look generally in the area where we think it would have stopped, doing whatever it's doing. But we're also hunting aoudad. We're actively hunting aoudad. And so you are in one part of the canyon. You find Heath's aoudad, which we already knew where it was. And around the same time, he texts you. He had found that aoudad that you shot on the run, full speed at 270.
It's great.
And by the time we get over there, right? So I find out where you guys are and I kind of navigate over to you and all that. And we're walking down. I think I sent you a video of us walking up to it. When you see this thing, and you've killed several aoudad at this point, right? One with a bow and I think one or two with a rifle or whatever. You turn into a 7-year-old on Christmas morning. You're like, dude, it's a giant. It's a giant. And then we get down there and it really was. It was enormous.
So to steal a Matt Chandler line, it's not exactly the same, but he said this the other day. Gretchen one time had asked me, she's like, "Hun, I feel like you smile bigger in your hunting pictures than our wedding photos."
Yeah, it happens.
Now here's the Matt Chandler line. I'm like, babe, that's two different kinds of happy. And you want
categories.
those happies to be where they are. If I have the wedding smile in a hunting, that's not good. And you don't want the hunting smile with you. So yeah, we'll keep them separate. Dude, I love it. I was pumped. 270 running. I felt good about that shot. I felt good about my gun. I'm sold on that 300 Win Mag. It's just hard, dude. I mean, to go 3 for 3 in one day. I mean, we actually got them all done on that one day. We recovered 2 later. But it was cool. It was super cool. And to do it with Heath. He had I don't know about you, but we all prayed over the situation when we recovered each animal.
Correct.
And so you
Good
prayed
habit
on yours.
to get into, hunters.
Yeah, hunters. And especially if you're hunting with a guide that doesn't know the Lord.
Yep.
That he's not going to refuse that moment. Because that moment means a lot to him too.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know, man. It could be a very, very evangelistic moment for you to give God thanks and pray for your guide and all that kind of stuff. Anyway.
Dude, we got to go back and talk about our gal from Long Shots as well. Yeah,
totally. So you pray at yours, I pray at mine, and I'm like, all right, Heath, pray, bro.
And he, poetically, he's the last one we retrieve. This is the last animal that he's going to retrieve. And Heath has spent basically 20 years guiding for buddies or guiding for paying customers. And he's a duck hunter. Like, he doesn't take things with horns or antlers. Like, he's there to serve everybody else. And here he is with the hardest animal to kill out there at his feet.
That was his first aoudad he'd ever shot at his own place.
Man.
And, Heath would tell you some of his less than best years happened out at that place back in the day. There was a lot of, the sins of the world, man. Pride of life, lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. There were some times where he was sideways with his father who owns that land. And now they are reconnected. The Lord has just saved him. And so in his prayer,
man, let's go.
Bro, it was like a sermon, man. He was praying, Lord, thanks for redeeming the years. I thank you that now my memories of this place will be with godly men doing godly things, not ungodly things. And I feel like for him, this hunt redeemed a lot of some of the things that maybe used to haunt him. There's those verses in Ecclesiastes 3 that say, there's a time for every season under heaven, right? A time to cry and a time to laugh. And one of the little phrases in there is there's a time to gather stones and scatter stones. And the stones represent memories, because in the Old Testament, when God would do a big thing, he'd say, get 12 stones and stack them up right here so you can remember what the Lord has done. And I think what Solomon is teaching us there is there are these significant times in your life where you take certain memories like a stone and you throw it away. And you're like, that's not what I'm going to remember about this place, this house. That's not what I'm going to remember about this place anymore. I'm going to remember this moment with my brothers in Christ chasing these animals and God blessing us and this prayer right now. And it could not have ended any better.
I mean, I was sitting there so giddy for Heath and for the situation. Because here's the thing, guys. I didn't know Heath during those years, right? I got a couple of buddies, like one of my good buddies, Shelby, who's in my foxhole. He's Shelby the Stoic for any of you guys that are here from the beginning when I first started talking about the foxhole. And, he tells me stories about from high school and college. And I'm like, Shelby, if I knew you in college and high school, there's no way we'd be friends right now. Because I've always kind of been pretty straight-laced. I've been a knucklehead, like goofball, but I've always been straight-laced. I never got in real trouble. I got in, hey, stop, trying to make the class laugh trouble. But Heath, got in some knucklehead, dumb trouble, taking some risks he shouldn't have taken and taking some liberties in areas that, looking back, he wouldn't take liberties with. But the word you use is perfect, and it made me think of something. You said redeemed, okay? So I remember when Tiger Woods won a golf tournament, and this was after he had got caught, being cheating on his wife a billion times and sleeping with hookers and all this kind of stuff. And he wins a major, and everyone's like, redemption. And I'm like, that's a theological term. Dude won a golf tournament. Hey, good on you. You got a couple $1 million. I'm sure your sponsors are
If your God is golf, those guys are right. And they worship it, bro.
Got to wear your red shirt and everybody's buying TW Nike merch and all. That's great. Good for you. Yeah. But that was an ultimate redemption moment for a guy that I've only got to experience his darker years, his dark nights of the soul, his valley of the shadow of death through stories. But even in a story, in the tone of a story for a guy that's even stoic like Heath is, you can tell that there's a lot of pain there. And he even said something just kind of off, a throwaway comment that I landed with me. He's like, man, there were about 3 times where I said I'd never come back out here. Mm-hmm. And here we are praying, and he's giving this incredibly apropos prayer over this animal.
It was worship, bro.
It was worship. And I think that that's one thing categorically that we have to understand, that there are moments of worship and there are moments where pausing needs to happen. And there's a lot of excitement. If you get all excited and high five your buddies after you get something on the ground, all that, I'm all for that.
Me too.
But guys, when you get to the animal, put your hand on the animal and whoever's there with you. And if no one's there with you, you pray. And you just give God thanks for his creation. You give God thanks for providing that meat for you and the other families. And here's another cool thing that Heath did. He prayed for whoever would own and run that land in the future, right? Think about that, because God's not making any more land. And here's the other thing about land. We know where all of it is, right? We don't even know where all the water is. Where do you think companies that dig water wells are doing all day long? They're not hitting 100% of the time, right? We know where all the land is, right? There's no more for sale. There's no more available. So at some point, that land is not going to be in Heath's family, right? And he's praying over that land for somebody else to make good memories with godly men, and that they can see Christ in his creation there on that very same red clay.
So speaking of prayer, we go to, what's it called? Long Shots?
Long Shots in Woodward, Oklahoma. Shout out.
So we go to Long Shots, and it's Kyle's habit that when you order dinner, he says, hey, we're about to ask a blessing to the waitress or waiter. Is there anything that we could be in prayer with you about? And sometimes people don't love it. They're like, world peace or whatever. Yeah. And so, but this lady, she stops. It took her back. She got a little teared up. She's like, oh my God, nobody's ever asked me this. And she was like, hey, will you pray for my kids? And they're teenage-ish. And so she gives the names. She stays there. We pray.
And we always ask, would you like to stay for the prayer? Yep. We don't just start praying and make it weird. It's like, hey, would you like to stay with us? Yeah.
And Long Shots was so good that after we all killed out today and cleaned everything up, we decided to stop there for lunch because the wings were that good. So we go back, and she's there.
Yep.
And she comes running up to our table.
That's right. She wasn't our waitress today. Right. But she saw us. She's table.
Like, guys, you're not going to believe it. You know how last night we prayed for my kid, and one of my kids is in school, and he never wants to go to class. He's in college in a different town. He never wants to go to class. He's always playing hooky, and I'm praying he'll make good decisions. His professor from the school just happened to be in town and
happened to be in that restaurant.
And her testimony gave me a great report, and he's doing great, and he's been in class every day this month. And so just thank you.
And dude, we didn't do anything other than ask a question.
That's right.
And here's the thing, guys, because I know that sounds weird. It sounds like a weird thing to do. But here's the exact cadence that happens 9 out of 10 times when you're at any restaurant, at least in the South, where people are generally polite. They set down everyone's plate, and then what do they say? Is there anything else I can get you? The answer is yes. Yeah. We are about to bless our meal. And again, you have to be presumptive in your question to elicit a response. So it's not, do you have anything we can pray for you about? Yes, no, which is how I used to ask it. But now it's more open-ended. It's like, hey, we're about to bless our meal. What can we pray for you? What can we pray about for you? Like that type of thing. And again, some people are like, oh, world peace, or oh, no, I'm good. And then they run away. And it's like, hey, they've got purple hair and a nose ring. They're trying to make sure they know when the next election is so they can vote for Kamala Harris or whoever. And so it's like, just let them go, just pray for them. But then when you have those people that get stuck with it, there's another story. My favorite wings on the entire planet are chicken and beer in Oklahoma City. So shout out, best wings. If you're going to go there, get the gochujang. It's great. And get the hot sweet potato fries, the hot sweet potato raffle fries. We go in there and I do my normal thing. I'm sitting there with my buddy Mike McCall, financial advisor, great guy in Oklahoma City. And we go there about once a month, once every couple of months. Guy comes over. And I just do my normal thing. Hey, and he's Catholic, and so it's always funny. It's like, hey, are we going to do Protestant or Catholic prayer? Are we going to pray to God or Mary? What are we going to do this week? And so here's the guy. And
let's go biblical and pray to God.
And I ask him the question, and he freezes, and he goes, And his shoulders kind of, he kind of exhaled and he goes, man, I'm like 3 months sober and I'm living in like a halfway house right now. And if I relapse, like I'm homeless and like I'm kind of scared. Like I'm scared I'm going to relapse. I'm scared I'm going to get in a bad place. So we ask him a few questions and then we pray for him. But then, you know, you go on about your business. He goes back to he goes back to waiting tables. Mike goes back to financial advising. I go back to screaming into my microphone. And then a couple of months go by, maybe 6 months goes by, and we're having lunch again at the same place. And I see him, and he's behind the bar, and he and I make eye contact, and he recognizes me, and I, of course, recognize him. And I come up to the bar, and I go, hey, how you doing? And it wasn't like, hey, how's your day going? He knew exactly what I was saying. And he was thrilled to update me, bro, I'm 9 months sober, man. Like I'm doing good. Like I'm out of that house. I got a place of my own right now. I got a second job, blah, blah. And that was about 3 years ago, Joby. And so like every, probably 2-3 times a year, I see that guy because he's still working there. And that one question that's awkward, that gives you little butterflies, and you're like, I don't think I should ask that because it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. But usually godly things can be a little bit weird and icky, but look at what it's led to, the fruit.
So here's something that would apply to all of you that have regular jobs at regular places, doing awesome things, man. I'm not knocking it whatsoever. And especially, like, let's say you've got a one more, at least that's the language I would use. That person that you would love to invite to church or share the gospel with, and it just hasn't gone, like, for whatever reason, you kind of hit a roadblock there. When your coworkers know that you are a praying person and that you will pray for them.
Yep.
Regardless of what people believe about prayer, I don't know the person that would turn that down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and here's what often happens, right? You let them know, hey, I'm praying. I'm a praying person. I'm happy to pray for you. I'd love to pray for you. Can you help me know? Or when you work with these people, sometimes like they got a sick parent and you go, hey, listen, I'm praying for your mom and I'm praying for you. And you say these kind of words. Okay. And they may not be receptive. At some point, the fecal matter hits the fan. And guess who that coworker comes running to? Not the fun guy at work.
Nope.
The prayer guy at work.
Yeah.
And sometimes what you're doing is almost like pre-evangelism. You don't consider it evangelistic, but it actually is. And you're just building a bridge for that person to know who to run to when that person thinks they need God and they know you know him. And that's a big part of what you're doing.
Well, and sometimes people don't feel good about where they're at in the pecking order of the office, because if you have pretty good self-awareness, which some people really don't, but some people have really good self-awareness, they're like, man, I don't get asked to go out for drinks after work as often as most of these other people or all that. And so you're like, sometimes you might feel like, man, I guess I'm just kind of a square. I'm just kind of a nerd. Like, no, I don't want to go out drinking all night. Like I'd rather go to a Bible study. I'd rather just go home and, read a book and, get on about my business. And you're absolutely right that when it does hit the fan, guys need to know. We're talking to mainly a male audience. Guys need to know who they can rely on.
Right.
And Goofball Larry from Cubicle 7, who's always knows the best bar and the best drinks, and they convince the bartender to give out extra Jello shots. Like, those people are fun to have at a party. They're fun on a group text. They send the best memes, but that's not a serious human being. Right? That person needs an encounter with real darkness so that they can seek the Lord.
Let me give you another one. Philippians 2:14 says, do everything without complaining or arguing, that you may shine like stars in a crooked and depraved generation. Another way you could be a shining light in your office is don't be the complaining and arguing guy. When everybody else is complaining because you got to work on Saturday, you just don't complain. Don't be the complainer. Mm-hmm. And don't be the arguer, or grumbler is what the word in Greek really means. Or don't be the one that's talking about everybody else when they're not around. One of the quickest ways to erode other people's trust in you is to talk about other people when they're not around, because then they know, well, when I'm not here, what are they saying?
Same thing.
And again, this is like pre-evangelism. This is just setting yourself up for, well, I know I can trust this guy because he's not a complainer, he's not an arguer.
And so, again, guys, it's all about investment, and it's putting deposits into the right bank account. What do I say all the time about spiritual, mental, and physical resilience? The bill comes due every morning. I cannot Bible study today for the rest of the year. I can't exercise today for tomorrow. Tomorrow the bill comes due. And we all have ebbs and flows. We all have things that come up. We all have busy seasons. But it's about that consistency. And something that you've said, I don't know that you've said it on any Ask a Pastors, but you've certainly said it in sermons, so I want to echo it here for people that may have missed it, which if you're not shout out to Church 1122 podcast, right? So I don't know if you know this, Joby, but you have shows. You've got 2 podcast shows. You got sermons and you've got Deepen, right? And people try to get on your show. And the Daily Blade, which just so happens to be the #1 podcast on the Christian devotional side of thing for men. So shout out to me and you for doing that.
Which was your idea.
And to Jay Owen over at Church 1122, marketing
Landon
genius, and Landon Robertson for, the shout outs. We got to be at 3.
And shout out to you. Daily Blade was your idea, bro. I mean, you try to reflect some of that, but it was your idea. You were like, I got an idea. This is what I'm thinking. And I basically just, every time we would collaborate, I just said yes to everything you said, but it's going good. It's a great idea. Good job.
You are the easiest person that I've collaborated with in the last little bit, because here's the thing is I vet all of my ideas with myself because I'm the most critical person on planet Earth. And so before I let the idea out of my face hole, I typically run it through the Rolodex and matrix of all the different experiences I've had and things that I like or don't like. I don't remember what story I was talking about. I want to have a little behind the scenes about the Daily Blade.
Great.
Because it's probably September of last year. It's probably after Saturated. Okay?
Yeah.
So here's my mindset after Saturated, right? So Saturated is amazing. Guys, if you haven't gone to a Saturated before, September, it's still beautiful out there in Jacksonville. Come out there. It's, was it Wednesday through Sunday, Thursday through Sunday, something like that. It's Wednesday through Sunday.
Wednesday.
So Wednesday's Jim Bergen. Melts the place. Thursday is Matt Chandler. Friday's Derwin Gray. Saturday's Ben Stewart. Sunday's Joby Martin. Oh, by the way, the baptismals are in the sanctuary. We're getting the floors wet. We're baptizing hundreds of people. Just an epic, epic time. And here's the thing. When you got Jim Bergen's, Matt Chandler's, Derwin Gray's, and Ben Stewart's, who are all leading huge churches, have large followings, a lot of that stuff, when those guys are looking around like, bro, what is in the water here in Jacksonville? What is going on at Church 1122? There's a little bit of anointing that's going on in that situation. But there's always the like, okay, now what? Right? And so like, you're real big on, hey, adults don't go to summer camp. We don't have those big experiences. So Saturated is kind of like that summer camp because it's, worship every night and it's big and it's all that kind of stuff. So I'm already in this mindset of, okay, how do you keep momentum going and all that? And I just got to thinking, dudes that need just quick. These dudes are on the way to work. They're on the way to the job site. They're on the way to the gym.
Yep.
They maybe don't have an hour to listen to John Piper, like, do his Asperger's thing into a microphone and dig into the sermons and all that. They got 5 minutes, man. They got 5-10 minutes. And so I call you, and I actually didn't have a fully fledged idea. I just said, hey, guys that want prayer guidance or meditation or devotional, and I'm just trying to like amoeba this idea into something real. Like, there's nothing for like dudes, like legit dudes, like workers, like guys that listen to your sermons and like it, guys that listen to my podcast and like it. And I'm like, what if you and I did like some sort of like short form thing, like 5 minutes, like 5-minute daily thing, like real quick, kind of like my quick hitters, but like we're talking Bible, we're talking devotional, but like no music in the background, like not super transcribed, and we don't get like some Scottish guy to read it so it sounds cool. Like, what do you think? And you just go, yeah, let's do it. That was it. And then I was like, oh, shoot. Well, now I got to figure out what this idea even is.
It's because
didn't have a name.
It was
the
Bible. So I'm going to say yes to Bible stuff. That's it.
And the biggest reason you said yes is because during COVID, you said you recorded what, 99. 20-minute, like 30-minute devotionals or whatever for your people?
Yeah, I had this overwhelming sense that, our people were without a shepherd. So I did devos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah. And so that became our bread and butter. But here's the thing. You have the idea, that's cool, but execution wins out over ideas. There's a lot of people that have had a lot of good ideas, but if they're not executed on, then they're basically worthless. They're farts in the wind, right? They just disappear.
One of the things I find though is that it's not just the guy that needs the little like Bible touch. I mean, some of the like most spiritually mature people at my church listen every single day and love it. It's just another thing, a supplement to their hour-long Bible study with commentary, because it's good to have another voice, talking about what the Bible means. And I think about my brother. My brother's a police officer in St. Johns County. He loves the Lord. I mean, he's the dude. He's walking with Jesus. He is definitely not a lightweight whatsoever. He's a heavyweight of the faith. But the two things that are not going to work for him devotionally, just the word devotional itself,
doesn't sound right to some
music
guys
in the background and butterflies and a soft pastoral voice, that junk. I can't. That ain't okay. Or even like a deep dive Ask John Piper where he's conjugating Greek verbs, and he's like, "What? I don't think I know enough to know what he means." I think locker room. And my brother played college football, and I think about 5 minutes before you walk on the field of your life today. Here's what the playbook says. Here's the play we're going to run. Love you, boys. Ready, break.
Yeah,
go.
or the safety meeting at the oil rig where it's all you guys sitting on the beds of your truck circled up in the morning. You're there for 5 minutes.
That's it. It's like, this is it. So anyway, God's blessed it, but God blesses his word. So we're just going to keep doing it that way. We got some friends coming too. It's going to be fun. Yeah,
we got a nice list of people that we know that would give 25 minutes, which is what, half a sermon for most guys, and so that they're going to come in and do that. But it's one of those ideas that people, if you understand marketing and sales and all that, there's like top of funnel stuff, right? So at the bottom of the funnel is whatever you want the person to do. Buy the car, sign up for the service, or, whatever, buy the widget, buy a box of widgets. But for us, we decided from the beginning, because we knew there was a big opportunity here, but we just didn't know it would work, right? Certainly not to the level that it has.
Right.
But it's like, we're not going to sell ads. We're not going to have sponsors. Like, people are going to find Church of 1122 because they found the Daily Blade. People are going to find Undaunted.Life that aren't going to, through the Daily Blade. And here's the other thing. An hour-long sermon or an hour-long podcast with a main point for 30 minutes and 5 quick hitters, that's an investment, right? Because most guys don't listen at 2x speed because they're not smart like I am, right? And so they're going to spend all the time on 1x speed, and that's an hour of your life. That's an hour in the car that you can be listening to, Waylon Jennings, or you could be, listening to another podcast. So that's a chunk. But 5 minutes, you got 5 minutes.
Yeah, but I also think the other's happening. I think from what I'm hearing is, well, even like I know there's, how many podcasts are there? What do you think?
Oh, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 6.5 million.
Okay, I feel like there's 6.5 million, but after I listen to the 2 I want to this week, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I'm waiting on your next one. And so what I'm hearing from some people are, okay, they say to me, your hour sermons aren't enough. And now I've got 5 touches more during the week.
And deepen.
Same thing with this. Yeah. What's crazy, man, you joke about me having a show. I'm starting to get email requests for guys to be on my show.
Can I come on your show?
And I was like, dude, I don't have a show.
But they don't get what Deepen is. So like, and maybe people in our show, like if they aren't familiar with it, tell us what
like
Deepen
Undaunted is an actual show. Like it has a point and it has like content. All Deepen is. So I'm the pastor of a church. It's a movement for all people to discover and deepen a relationship with Jesus. And so when I walk off the stage on Thursday night, after I pray for people in the lobby, I sit down with 2 other pastors on our staff. Sometimes we have some other folks in the room, and all we do is a deep dive on the sermon that just happened. That's it. I didn't know people were going to listen to it.
You thought it was just for Church 1122ers that wanted to go a little bit deeper,
and not even all of them, like 10%.
Yeah,
like I didn't think, and it's crazy. It's in the charts every single week. I didn't know there were charts in podcasts until Daily Blade came out, and you were like, dude, we're number 3, and I was like,
well,
after
you went on Unashamed. It was funny because your sermons and Deepen, at one point, I could take a screenshot on the Apple charts because my show and your shows were right there. We were all there together. But the thing about the Daily Blade is it's 5 minutes, so the algorithm's going to like it because it's 5 days a week. A lot of new devices are going to listen to it because it's a brand new show. They do the finishing of podcasts by percentage. So if you listen to 5 minutes of a Joe Rogan podcast by percentage, that's a very little amount. But for a 5-minute podcast, you're not going to stop listening at 4 minutes and 50 seconds, and you're just going to, finish it out. And I purposely made the intro outro real short so you don't skip either one, right?
You're smart.
And so
it's real shareable too. That's what I've heard.
Super shareable, right?
Like
and thedailyblade.com was available.
Wow.
And so you can and that was one of the things when I was trying to figure out the name. It's like, okay, make sure it's not dailyblade.dork or something like that, because I'm like Undaunted.Life, which is so stupid. And so I can't get through all the spam because Undaunted.com wasn't available. But guys, to tell you how quickly this thing took off, within 48 hours, it was already I think it was in the top 25 of all podcasts in existence on Spotify and Apple, right? That's, again, 6.5 million shows. And then the Associated Press, well, I'll let you say, because someone on your staff that
no, you know, I don't know about this stuff. I mean, I sent you the link, but
yeah, someone on your staff, which I don't know how they even found it, but the Associated Press, which I have some issues with, but the Associated Press did a ranking of the top 10 new podcasts of 2025. And again, this is middle of January.
Yeah, it was like most influential.
Right. And these are in all categories. So there's like 36 categories of shows. And we were the number 3 new show of 2025. And we're just like, So I'm sitting there geeking out, excited. I can't believe this is working, and you're just like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
That's what we do.
Yeah,
man.
this is kind of what we make happen. Make
Just
some
put the
magic happen.
Isaiah 55 says this is what happens. Just put the Bible out there.
Well,
I love it.
There we were one of 3 shows that were, kind of Bible.
Yeah.
One was Catholic, so it was kind of Bible adjacent. But like there were 3 shows that were in the Christian sphere, I guess you could say, that were in that top 10, which kind of goes back. Well, we'll kind of make this the last thing because I think I've talked about this on Ask a Pastor, but I'm not exactly sure. If not, just give another answer and just make it more unique than the last one. There's a lot of stuff in the water right now of culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had Wes Huff on the podcast not long ago.
That was awesome.
Did a couple of hours. Friggin' loved that interview. It was great. In the previous interview that was released right before that was Sonny Sandoval of POD. Very special interview for me personally, just because of my upbringing and how special that band was to me. And I talked about how, I struggle in prayer with being super emotive and getting into the music. And I just don't really like it. But man, I remember worshiping Jesus at a POD show, like just with my hands in the air, singing a song and, then trying to elbow people around me because moshing is how you worship the Lord. And the thing about it is you have Wes Huff on Joe Rogan giving an explicit gospel presentation. Ayan Hirsi Ali comes out as Christian. Russell Brand comes out as a Christian, which again, comes out as kind of interesting language, but that was co-opted by a demonic ideology that's now being redeemed by the Christian church. You have secularist atheists saying that they're culturally Christian. Richard Dawkins. Jordan Peterson has publicly admitted that he believes that the resurrection of Jesus Christ was a real, actual historical event and that Jesus is God. His God, he's not gone there yet. Pashtuo, I don't think he's put his faith in Christ. Bible sales are exploding. You have young men in droves going back to churches. You have young men getting interested in Eastern Orthodox because of their Gregorian chants, and it seems more manly than anything they're getting from culture that says manhood is toxic. And we had the Asbury quote-unquote revival thing, which wasn't really a revival. It was a really long worship service. Like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to judge those things, but there's just all these things that are just happening. And it's like, I don't want us to get recency bias because things like this have happened throughout history, but it feels like there's a capital A awakening that is coming. And I just want to get your read because if you're in the room during Saturated and you don't think awakening, we need to check your pulse. If we see what's happening in these different pockets of ministry, shows like mine, why is my show popular? That doesn't make any sense, right? But you have these guys that have found a place to where like, dude, this guy thinks like me, but he also loves the Lord and studies the Bible with other dudes that love the Lord. What's your read of what's happening during this time? Do you feel like it's an awakening? Do you feel like we're on the precipice of something?
I 100% do. And a part of the reason I think so is because it's not centralized, It's not just happening in a particular style of church or a particular denomination. At the time of this recording, Gather 25 just happened that basically Jenny Allen put together, and they worship like churches from all over the world in every time zone got together, and it was hosted live from Dallas, then the East Coast, then Europe, then Africa, then India. What you see on college campuses happening right now is very unique. There are hundreds of people at Ohio State and then Auburn and then Alabama and then South Carolina getting baptized, coming to faith. What we see at the Church of 1122 in and of itself would be an awakening. We baptized 1,642 people in one afternoon. I mean, This is crazy, bro. And it's not controlled by anybody. This wasn't a top-down strategy. This wasn't like if we can reach these cities and reach these influencers, that's not how it works. I think we may be repeating a cycle that's happened before that was very positive for the world. And it's almost like the devil overplayed his hand, and then it turned
with kind of the new atheism, the LGBTQ stuff, all the cultural.
I think everything from 2019 to 2023, you put that all in one big demonic pot and stir it up, and that was our experience. Cities are burning. Everything is about race and hate. You got men beating up girls, calling it sport. You're murdering babies at one of the only 2 political parties that have any chance of winning, and it's celebrated. You're cutting off healthy tissue of confused little kids. I mean, bro, it's like...
Doesn't get much worse.
Okay, right. And I think there's eternity's placed in the heart of every man and woman, every person. And it's almost like the devil let his horns show too much, and a bunch of people are like, that ain't it. I mean, you got Tucker Carlson saying, I'm a Christian. I'm not a good one yet, but I'm a Christian, you know? Well, if you back up to 1968, there's a lot of similarities. There are race riots all over the place. There's political upheaval. The sexual revolution is going crazy. And out of it comes what we know as the Jesus Revolution, which started things like Calvary Chapels and, I mean, lots and lots of, like, a church, most evangelical churches today can have benefited from what happened in the early 70s from that. It seems kind of like that again. And, you know, God does things in cycles all the time. See the book of Judges, right? That was a negative cycle that happened 12 times, but I think positive redemption cycles can happen too. And I want to believe we're in one, and I'm leading like we are in one, and I'm trusting God that He's moving. Listen, the Spirit shows up where the Spirit is wanted. So I want to be the kind of pastor that wants the Spirit to show up, not just at 1122, but in every Jesus-proclaiming, Bible-believing church everywhere. And, I mean, one of the coolest things that happens last year, from just personally, is we're, we baptize all those people at our beach baptism, and CBN, Christian Broadcast Network, they reach out. The anchor there is just great and godly. And what he didn't know is that I've been watching him cover these mass baptisms all over the place. And I'm like, bro, this is the coolest thing ever. We show your clips every week leading up to our baptism because it feels like we're a part of something that God is doing.
Yeah.
Not like we're unique out here in Jacksonville. Because it happened in Auburn, it happened in California, it happened
Ohio
in Tampa.
State just they had kids when it was like 5 degrees outside.
Bro.
They had troughs of water inside of U-Hauls because
Right.
these kids were getting baptized after an event at Ohio State.
Right, that one made me nervous because I'm a dog fan, and Ohio State already has a lot of talent. So when they had the hand of God on them, I knew they were going to win the Natty.
Oh yeah,
this year.
the Natty was going to Columbus for
Had no
sure.
So, but that's it, man. Listen, yes, you test every spirit, but you don't want to have a critical spirit in and of yourself. And so, yes, I believe that God is on the move, and I want to be a part of it. And who do you think He's going to use? The one that says, "Here am I, send me," or the one that's like, that's probably not you, Lord.
The one that's like, oh, I don't like your music. Oh, I
Correct.
don't really like the examples you use. Oh, you sell books, which makes me feel funny.
Right.
Well, and that's kind of thing that where we're at as we wrap up. Like, that's why we're doing the Daily Blade. That's why I'm doing Undaunted.Life, a Man's podcast. That's why you're doing the sermons that you're doing. That's why your church and your elders and your staff felt the wisdom to buy a retreat center that you could go out in the woods and write sermons. Then you've got Deepen, which is like taking people a little bit deeper. And then everything has like a reason and a purpose to it. And so there's also a reason and a purpose that this white bag has been sitting on this table the entire time. Some of you guys in YouTube land are like, what is the deal with this white bag? Did
So
Kyle
how are you
forget?
going to tie that in?
Well, the way that I'm going to tie that in, see, is my final shout out, because I'm pretty sure I know what this is, because I've been waiting for this. Because you know when you train for a long time, you do jujitsu and all that, like you kind of get after it, you get your white belt, it gets all beat up, and then you kind of work your way along. But the belt is a very, very important thing. It
You
keeps
do
your
feel
gi
like a
together.
10-year-old again when you get a new belt.
Oh
don't
my
you?
gosh, you do feel pretty good, because here recently I earned my brown belt from the Forge. Shout out to the Forge. But as we look right here, Origin, which makes all their products in Maine, and every product is put together by American hands with 100% American-made products. And shout out to John Millen, like employee number 3 of Origin Maine, because they just made jiu-jitsu belts. And
By the way, we did shoot all of our animals in Origin camo.
we did. So the camo was great. And here is one of the first, perhaps the first Origin brown belt that has been produced. And you got the little leather strap down there says Origin on it. And so this is my fresh, brand new Origin brown belt. I think I might wear this to dinner. Do you think that would be a good idea?
I would.
And so, and I forgot to open the bag, so I'll go ahead and do a post-cut half-face blade, some of the best blades out there. I should have opened the bag with that. Look at these folders. The thing with this folder is when you open it, it feels like a fixed blade. Like, that's how well this thing is. So shout out to Andy over at Half Face Blades for getting me hooked up with all these. But Joby, we've gone everywhere in this conversation. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
Yes. Christian men should have conversations like this without a show.
Yeah, you don't need a mic and lights.
Like, and if you'll notice, part of what happens when some guys that are just trying to love the Lord and, you know, just regular guys, man, it kind of doesn't matter what you start talking about.
Yeah.
It always ends up with Jesus and what He's doing. You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the Psalms, whether David's having a great day, you know?
David's pretty schizophrenic
about
that.
entering the house of the Lord,
Yeah.
or if he's like, my God, why have you forsaken me? If you'll notice in all those Psalms, he always ends with his eyes fixed towards the heavens, saying, thank you, God. So I hope, even though, I don't know, there's not even really a point to this talk, but I hope it'll be a good example for men to just get together with men and talk about whatever. And then whenever possible, aim it at the Lord. And see
That's
what
right.
happens.
Let's leave it there. All right, let's go eat.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@Undaunted.Life. That's info@Undaunted.Life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.Undaunted.Life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.